So a brief run through of the homework. When you've got a case study, first thing to do is look at the questions before you read the case study. Explain how a policy pursued by the Irish government between 1990 and 2006. So key bit of information there. Just within that period may have promoted economic growth. So we're just looking for one policy, either short-term economic growth or long-term economic growth. Could be either. We'll look at those in a second. Assess. Well, we know that's a two-sided argument. Whether the relationship between unemployment and the budget balance. When it says budget, it's talking about fiscal policy. So the fiscal government budget is one economists would expect. So when it says economists would expect, this is a likely relationship. So we're thinking about the likely relationship. If unemployment goes up, what should happen to the budget balance? Is it likely to go into surplus, or is it likely to go into deficit? And that's the argument of the two sides. So one side's going to be, yes, it is likely to go into a deficit, and one side's going to be, no, it could go into a surplus. That's the two sides you're going to look for. Discuss the effectiveness of raising interest rates to reduce inflation. So what it's telling you again is that it's an evaluation question. The effectiveness of raising interest rates to reduce inflation. It's going to be two sides. So on one side, it's going to be effective. On this side, it's going to be ineffective. But this one also needs a judgment. Okay, now they had 25 marks equals half an hour, so you're not going to write much for these questions, or as much as you did for an essay, but you still need to cover all of the skills. You're looking at roughly about just under 10 minutes for the first question, about 15 minutes for the second question, and the rest of the time for the last question. If you spend a little bit longer on the last question and you manage to get the first question done quite quickly, that's fine. If we look back up at the case study then, so we can see if we can find some relevant information for those different questions. So first of all, we'll have a look for the economic growth question. So straight away between 1990 and 2006. So we've got the period, it's going to be somewhere around here. Became the fastest growing economy. We've got the average growth rate of 7%. That might be a good bit of application that we could put in on a question. Also, rapid fall in unemployment. That would probably be useful for the second question. It went from having GDP. Irish expansion came from higher exports. Okay, we've got one factor that may have caused economic growth. Investment in education. We've got another factor there in infrastructure. Lower corporation taxes. We've got another one there. So any of those, if you're going to do investment in education, you're looking at long run economic growth. If you're going to do low corporation taxes and higher exports, short term economic growth would be good for those. You've also got house building and retail sales if you wanted to do one of those, but any one of those analysed is going to be enough for the first question. Then you've got the next section, which starts looking at why the economy started to slow down and unemployment started to rise, and you've got an example on this table here for the second question of the budget balance and unemployment. So you've got an increase in unemployment throughout, and then you've got it going from a positive budget balance into a negative budget balance. So using that data, but also if you look at the trends, over the first part of the trend, you've got no change in unemployment, but you do have a change in the budget balance. So that might be one of your arguments against. You also need to describe why. So this table itself is just application, but you need to analyse and explain why that's happening. The last question, which looks at interest rates. You've got the question of raising interest rates to reduce inflation here. the inflation is coming from the economic growth linked into the first question. So just be careful that you don't reference anything towards the end, because that's when the economy slows down. But you're looking at what the effect is on interest rates. So it's telling you that the interest rates are going to go up. What you're going to analyse is how that leads to effects on aggregate demand and how that leads to changes in inflation. But two sides, so one that would reduce inflation and one that might lead to an increase in inflation.